Hello, team. This is the Fred Asquith on Film team. You're part of it. Welcome. Fred on Film. Fourth. At Fred Asquith on Film. TikTok, Instagram, where you can see all the reels that people love to comment on and say, I disagree, or I agree. Thank you very much. And I hope to see more of you there. I hope to see more of you here. I hope to see more of you everywhere. I hope to see more of you out on the street, outside my window. I would love today to talk to you about my trip to the Venice International Film Festival, aka La Biennale, or Venezia 82, however you say 82 in Italian. Full disclosure, this was a gifted trip by DeLonghi, the coffee machine brand, and I was very happy to accept that gifted trip. And so I'm making some videos for them off the back of that. But my discussion now is not affiliated with DeLonghi. They haven't asked me to talk about on this podcast. They probably couldn't give a shit about this podcast. They might not even know it exists. But they obviously knew that I'm interested in film, but they want me to post on my personal profile. So yeah, this discussion is not affiliated with DeLonghi. They're a sponsor of the festival, which is the reason why they were trying to get people out there. So I'd like to talk about that, and I'd also like to talk about a trailer that I saw, the new Potter series, and also a list of the best acting performances of the 21st century that I found, which was really interesting. But first of all, Venice. I don't know if you've ever been to Venice, but it's an extremely strange place. On the way there, I said to my darling wife, who's already been there on some kind of hen do or something, I don't know. She kept mentioning it. I don't know what it was. They went to Florence. I can't remember what it was. It was some kind of thing. You know what I mean? It was just something. And anyway, on the way, I was like, where does the plane land? Because there has to be some tarmac somewhere. And she was like, oh, yeah, no, and then you get on a taxi boat or whatever. Just nuts. You get off the plane, you get your bags, and you get straight on a fucking boat into town. Like, that's just insane to me. Boats everywhere. Like, boats everywhere. You can obviously walk some places because you can get bridges across and blah, blah. But there are some islands that you just require a boat because it's technically a collection of islands, right? Taxi boat here. We paid, again, off my own back, full disclosure, this isn't like DeLonghi stuff. We paid €50 to get a taxi boat just like across like a 20-meter stretch of canal because there's no other way to get there. Honestly, those guys, they've monopolized the whole waterways are monopolized. It's like some kind of mafia situation. And because we couldn't quite work out the taxi ferry at first. Anyway, we did work that out in the end, so I didn't pay €50 again, thank fuck. But yeah, and I was like, when I got there, I was like, just immediately my mind was ticking over being like, well, how do they... Like, what about if there's an emergency? Like, how the police have boats. Ambulance have boats. What the fuck? People have got boats in their house. They've got boats moored up in their house, and then they go to work. And it's naturally a very slow city because of that. Because you can't fucking get anywhere. Get me a road. Do you know if I was building a city now, I'll tell you this for free. I wouldn't plan to build my city on a lagoon, right? I imagine it must have been sweet and cute and a nice idea back in the day whenever Venezia was built. But nowadays, it would be ill-advised because it doesn't quite match up to the speed of the modern day. However, as a place to visit, very, very sweet, very romantic. Probably my most romantic place I've seen. You know, Paris always gets all the plaudits in that regard. But I think Venice is... probably the place I'd go if I was the type to propose abroad, but I'm not. I'm the type to propose in my fucking bedroom, which is what I did with my darling wife. More of that on my profile. So yeah, it must have been a nightmare at the Jeff Bezos wedding that was there recently. Like, I heard the locals were complaining about the Jeff Bezos wedding. Yeah, no fucking shit. No shit. An influx of hundreds of entitled, extremely rich celebrities demanding the use of all the local amenities, including the taxi boats, or maybe even bringing their own fucking boats, taking over entire islands, taking up entire chunks of service staff. Like, it must have been a nightmare. And also, I wouldn't even want to be a guest at that wedding. Being shuttled from pillar to post. Like, it is romantic traveling on a boat, but at the same time, it is a boat. So by the end of the holiday, I had really weird, like, equilibrium issue going on in my head where I was like, I just constantly felt like I was on a boat. And I discussed this with my people around me, and they all agreed. I wasn't just going mental. It was like, you're on boats that much. You starting to feel like the concrete itself is rocking. So another quirk about that is that there's not a nightlife really, because it's quite like a get in, get out kind of city, apparently. So I was staying there, but most tourists will pop in and then pop out and stay outside the city, apparently. Or even locals around the city will pop in and pop out. So there isn't much of a culture of like, hey, let's stay out in Venice and go to a club. And I saw no evidence of late night clubs. I heard some rumors that people had been in a bar that was dead until 1 a.m. or something like. So this is why when all the celebs go there, they party on yachts, right? They party on super yachts. They just get the yacht in from the sea. They don't even go to the airport, park it up, probably get their mate to drive it and they'll fly in, park it up and then have a massive fucking party on there. So I saw the yacht of Bernie Eccleston, the owner of F1. And I looked it up, that's why I know. And it was fucking massive and it looked like they're having a great time. Speaking of which, I've never been in a place with that many celebrities and, addendum, never seen that few celebrities, right? And I'll tell you, I saw one celebrity late. I'll tell you about that later. But I kept constantly hearing like, oh, Adam Sandler and George Clooney just arrived for J. Kelly, the premiere. Kim Kardashian was there, posted on her Instagram story. I knew that because my darling wife found that on her story. Emma Stone was there for her new Yorgos Lanthimos film. Julia Roberts was there and Andrew Garfield for the Luca Guadagnino movie After the Hunt. And yet I saw fucking none of them. And as part of this trip, this gifted trip, DeLonghi were taking us through all the routes that a celebrity would go. We were given a celebrity treatment, even though we're fucking bozos. So we were getting dropped off at the Excelsior Hotel Pontoon, which is where all the famous pictures are taken of all the classic celebrities and Hollywood stars of years gone by, getting off the boat to go to the red carpet. It's like the pre-red carpet shot. And I didn't fucking see no one. You get off the pontoon, you go up the steps into this like lobby, there's a bar area, it's all red roped off. Like, I was in there. I was in there. In the celebrity pen. And I saw fucking nobody, bro. But they all saw me, didn't they? Darling with the film festival. Yeah, so more about the movie side of things, because I know that's what you're here for. We got off at the Hotel Excelsior to go to the premiere of No Other Choice, which is the new Park Chan-wook film. And it stars the villain from Squid Game Season 2, who played the front man. I'll get his name in a sec. And so we got dropped off and we went up to the bar area, and then we went to this like terrace area, Terrazza La Bignale. I think I'm pronouncing that completely wrong. So on the terrace there was this like DJ, and then there was this woman who I don't think was employed by the DJ, who kept getting on the mic and like doing like this weird lounge bar MCing. Like, she was definitely not employed, at least in advance. She might have gone to the DJ and said, "Can I do this?" And he might have gone, "Yeah." But she was just dressed in normal clothes, and she was a guest, because I kept seeing her just wander around like being a normal guest. She had a lanyard on. Anyway, she kept picking up the mic and just doing like MCing like this, like Venice, dums dum, Venice, bums bum, films, dums dums, movies, dums dum. Like, and talking about the sponsors, DeLonghi, dunsh dunsh, coffee, dunsh. The dunsh dunsh is the beat, by the way, of the music. Just saying single words in between the beat. And I tell you what, it was such affluent surroundings. I was on the terrace of the Venice Film Festival looking out into the ocean, and she was ruining my fucking vibe. She was ruining my fucking vibe. All right? Chill out. You're on the mic, MCing, as if we're like at a local karaoke bar and you know that the owner and they let you get on the mic. Like, it was such a kind of bargain basement piece of entertainment for such affluent surroundings. I was like in my tuxedo, in my bow tie, like, can you shut the fuck up, please? Fucking hell. Anyway, so then we had a couple of drinks, all free drinks. God, it's cushy, right? Can you imagine being like a celebrity and like having experienced like the route that they go down, the hotel and the terrace and all that? Like, it's nuts that like this must just be their experience. Like, everything is free, which doesn't make sense because you're the rich ones, right? So please pay. Anyway, all this like wine was free, and so I had some Dutch courage in advance of the premiere. It's just all very nice. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, we got led to the red carpet. So it's the premiere like elements of Venice are all on a separate island to the main kind of tourist islands, and the island is called Lido. And Lido, for all intents and purposes, appears to me to be just a festival island. Obviously, it wasn't birthed out of the sea that way, but that appears to be what the local people have decided it is. It's just like the festival island. I could be completely wrong about that. I was just on one side of it, but it was just this like one pocket on the side of Lido had like the terrace that I just talked about, the red carpet, and a few like pop-up restaurants. Like, literally, it looked like they'd built the structure just for the festival. It was like one of those kind of plexiglass kind of structures for the restaurant, and then they will like take it down after the festival and then mothball the island? I don't know. But anyway, we get led to the red carpet, and you know, as we know, we've talked about this on this podcast a bit. I've been on some red carpets in London, most recently. I interviewed on the Mobland one, which I talked about on my first ever episode on this thing, I think. The 28 years later red carpet recently. What was the one I went to most recently? Oh yeah, F1. So I've been to a few, and that's honestly not me bragging. That's actually me saying that the London ones are actually really, really low key. Like, I'm so thankful to be invited, and I feel really privileged to be invited, but it's not prestigious in the sense that, like, you know, I'm just a content creator. There's a reason why I'm being invited. It's because I'm just a content creator and they want me to take a picture and then fuck off, right? It's not because any of us actually matter. Not that celebrities matter more than normal people. You know what I mean, right? So this red carpet was immediately like set up to be way more prestigious, and it was absolutely right. So what I mean by that is they told me that I had to wear a suit with a bow tie, and it was elegant, very, very formal dress, which is not the case at London premieres, and that the red carpet had absolute no phones policy, which makes sense because, like I say, when like celebrities go on the red carpet, they want it to appear that they're the ones being observed and they're the ones who are in the esteemed position, and they're there to be watched, rather than like, I'm here to document this on social media, which is exactly what I would have fucking done if they'd have let me, because I don't belong there whatsoever. Like, I have no reason to be on that had I not been invited by the sponsor of the fucking festival. So I would have definitely got my iPhone out. Hi guys, I'm just on the Venice Film Festival red carpet. But they said no phones policy, so I was like, right, I better get some fucking great photos. Anyway, as soon as I stepped on the red carpet, sipping my red juice. As soon as I stepped on the red carpet, I looked down and my shoe felt weird. My shoe felt strange. It felt like it was slipping on the carpet. I noticed the carpet itself was wet from a previous rain shower. And so I thought, I wonder if my shoes are just slipping on the wet carpet. I did fear for the worst because I've owned these shoes for 15 years as my, like, quote unquote posh shoes that I wear for quote unquote posh events. And so I thought, oh no, are these things on their last legs? Anyway, they seemed fine, so I just took my mind off it. As soon as we got to the steps of the... I'm going to give you a play-by-play because I found it all fascinating. You might think, this is all bullshit, shut up. But, like, you know, I just thought it was quite interesting. It's just like a weird world, isn't it? We got to the steps to go onto the red carpet. A guy previous to me was being filmed by the red carpet videographer because obviously they have, like, photographers in the pit and videographers. And I was like, cool. So when you get to the top of the steps, you get filmed by this like steady cam and then you move on to the photographers. So me and my darling wife got to the top of the steps and the videographer fucked off, just fucked off. We turned round so the videographer could get us and he fucked off. And we were like, oh, so I guess he doesn't want a clip of us. And then we turned round and walked. And this kind of like ego busting stuff kept happening. So we walked to get pictures. We stopped. Most of the photographers don't lift up their camera because they don't care. Look, these photographers are all there to they're all there to make money, right? I don't think they get paid to be in the pit. I think they're in the pit on a freelance basis and they make their money based on images that they sell to publications. And I think every image on Getty Images will get them like 300 quid for a commercial license or whatever. So if someone comes up that they don't know who the fuck they are, like me and my darling wife, you could argue that they're not going to lift up their camera because why should they care? My argument is, right, speaking as someone who felt incredibly embarrassed because I knew I didn't belong there, my argument is, would you mind just lifting your camera up, please? Because it's actually not the 1960s where like every frame of celluloid costs you money. This is just going on a 15 terabit hard drive. You can afford to take this picture. And I'm not, but I might be someone of note who might be worth being bought by a publication. To be clear, I'm not, but also I might be, right? That's assuming, the photographer is therefore assuming that they know everybody of note, whether it's celebrity or social media. Now, I might have been a content creator with like 5 million followers. And you might be like, oh, well, then maybe he probably would have known who you fuck you were. Yeah, maybe. But maybe not. Because I was with some other content creators who were also invited who had millions and millions of followers and they had a similar issue, right? So I'm not saying again that like just because you have more followers means that you matter or whatever. It's all bullshit at the end of the day. I just mean... I got a bit butthurt by the fact that photographers wouldn't take a photo of me that would be 7 megabytes on their fucking 20,000 terabyte hard drive, especially when they might not know everyone on the carpet. All right, I've made my point. So anyway, and also another thing that that really fucked my ego was like, obviously, given that no one knew who we were, there was one DeLonghi cameraman, by the way, at the end of the row, and so he was the only one. I'll tell you why in a sec. But given that no one knew who we were, my darling wife looked incredible. Had this beautiful dress on and she's absolutely gorgeous and she looks the part. Like, she looks like she is in a film or that she should be in films. And actually, she got approached by a couple of producers on the terrace, genuinely, saying, I'd love you to be in my film, right? Just because she looked incredible, right? Fair play. I looked like a goblin because I didn't have a proper tuxedo and I'd had to borrow a bow tie from George from Pulp Kitchen, a friend of the show. But you know, I thought I looked okay, and obviously we're there as a pair, so I thought no different than to just have pictures as a pair. Anyway, it became quickly clear that the photographers just wanted pictures of my darling wife, and not me. They just said to me, could we have solo, please? Just waving me away. Yeah, no worries, yeah. Next station, there's 3 stations. Could we have solo, please? Yeah, no worries, yeah, cool. So there's just loads of pictures of me, like bowed head, backing away from my darling wife with my like hunchback. Yeah, no worries, yeah. Yeah, no worries, yeah. There you go, darling. So that was fantastic. And then got to the end and I knew it was the DeLonghi photographer because obviously he'd been given like pictures of us all to know who he had to take a picture of, and he was the only one who went, oh yeah, and he wanted a solo of me. So I was like, oh, thank God, fuck off, darling. No, I'm kidding. kidding. And then we got inside, and it was manic inside. It was manic, right? You'd think when you get inside that's like, okay, cool. The audience is outside, kind of screaming for the celebrities, and then you get inside and you go to the cinema and you sit down, whatever. No, inside there was rows and rows and rows of people, and like because we weren't esteemed guests, we were kind of ejected from the red carpet area into the crowd of people in our tuxes, which was like just we just stuck out like a sore thumb at that point as like absolute chances, and like. It was just an absolute mess, just tons of people. Super fun though. Anyway, this was the one celebrity that I saw was Ron Perlman, the guy who played Hellboy in the Guillermo del Toro Hellboy movies. Everyone, like, because I was there as, I wasn't there as, but everyone on the trip kind of saw me as like some kind of cinephile film nerd, which I like to think I am, but like, I don't know, I just felt a bit embarrassed. Everyone kept being like, "Oh, do you recognize anyone, Fred?" And I kept being like, no, because I think they thought that I would be able to recognize anyone, cast or crew. And, you know, there's definitely a few directors or cinematographers, editors or whatever that I'd maybe be able to recognize, but I was doing a terrible job. Anyway, finally I was like, oh, that's Ron Perlman, the guy, the guy who played Hellboy. And he had his back to us, sorry, by the time everyone else turned around. I saw his face, but everyone else turned around, he had his back to us, and everyone went, oh yeah, great. Anyway, we went inside the cinema. I should put it on my cinema spreadsheet where I sat. Fucking hell. It was L11, I think it was, which is actually quite a nice seat. It was nearly an aisle seat. Anyway, the Venice Film Festival cinema is extremely grand and beautiful, very wide. It's almost like it's got the orientation of like the Odeon Lux Leicester Square in terms of width. But it packs more seats in, and the seats are almost Curzon style, so they're like padded, not recliner, obviously. I don't know why it would be a ridiculous concept to have recliners at the Venice Film Festival, but something about that just feels crazy. Just like Julia Roberts off to see a new film, and in the middle of the film, just gotta go for a wee. Anyway, so yeah, they're not recliners. And I saw No Other Choice, which was, like I say, the new Park Chan-wook film. And yes, it stars the front man from Squid Game Season 2, Lee Byung-hun. And it also stars Sun Yi-jin, who plays his wife in the movie. So a very brief synopsis of this is, after being unemployed for several years, a man, Lee Byung-hun, devises a unique plan to secure a new job, eliminate his competition. So it's quite a funny setup. It's basically, I guess I don't really want to spoil this because it's not out yet. It's coming out on September 24th. Basically, it's a guy like working through the people who got the job before him so that he can get the job. So it's a kind of family drama stained with ultra violence in the vein of Parasite. Interestingly, because that's also a Korean movie, and there are other Korean movies that fall within this category as well. And I think it is like actually a bit of a interesting quirk and niche of Korean cinema to have ultra violence injected into family drama. I think that's really specific aesthetic of Korean movies that I find really entertaining. And obviously, Parasite did it best. Yeah, it doesn't quite live up to that kind of level, and all throughout the film you are thinking about Parasite, really, because it is quite similar in so many ways. However, the experience of seeing it and the experience of watching it in the room with the stars was absolutely incredible. And I think that the cinematography and the sound design of this movie was absolutely fucking incredible. So, like, you know how normally if you're shooting a conversation, you'll just block it where you'll like have a one shot and then a reverse shot. In this movie, it was stitched together almost like a ultra long TikTok. Like every single piece of dialogue, it felt like, or piece of action, had its own, independent from anything else, its own planned choreographed piece of camera work, whether it was like a pull out or a pull in or a twist round or just some kind of dynamic movement. The movie was so dynamic, and it felt like it was so painstakingly put together. I can't imagine how long it must have taken, and I can't imagine how painstaking it must have felt on set to be shooting it shot for shot. You know, because if you shoot a conversation shot reverse shot, you might film with one camera or two. You might shoot that take for like a 4-minute full length conversation, and then you can like cut together those bits. But if you're shooting like specialized shots for particular lines, that's just a one shot thing. So it's like a action, say the line, stop. Action, say the next line, stop. So what might be 4 minutes of dialogue might take like 10 different shots. And that was astounding to me. It must have been so laborious, and that's really something to be respected. And the sound design was fantastic, as you'd expect, similar to Parasite, just lots of like crunching bones and squelching and screaming, and yeah, lots of great stuff in there. So I will rate this on Letterboxd when it comes out, and you can see my full review when that happens. But just to say that, and the movie got a standing ovation after, I think as is custom, got a 7-minute standing ovation, which I think seems like a pretty standard length of standing ovation. I don't know if they rank the standing ovations as much as, say, a Cannes Film Festival does. But on that point, Frankenstein got like a 17-minute ovation, and it made Jacob Elordi cry. So there is that. Speaking of which, there were other movies at the Venice Film Festival that I wished I could have seen. Frankenstein is one. Guillermo del Toro directed. Jacob Elordi, Oscar Isaac. I can't wait for that to come out in cinemas. It will be a Netflix movie, but I'm going to see that in cinemas and get a review to you. I'm trying to avoid all reviews from Venice. After the Hunt, the aforementioned After the Hunt, directed by Luca Guadagnino, is one of my favourite directors, who did Bones and All, Call Me By Your Name, Queer, Bigger Splash, sorry. That stars Andrew Garfield, Julia Roberts, and that's it seems to be like a sex scandal involving a teacher played by Julia Roberts. I wished I'd seen that, but again, didn't have time. So that was my Venice Film Festival experience. I would highly recommend Venice as a place. I would highly recommend the film festival as a destination to go watch films. So long as you can get the tickets that you... as long as you can get any tickets, basically. I was really privileged to be able to get into this one. So yeah, anyway, another interesting tidbit on my way home, which is not movie related, but just a quick point. Keir Starmer was on my flight home. So Keir Starmer was on a 5 o'clock flight back from Venice to London Heathrow in economy class. So this is one of those city hopper flights where there was no business class or anything. There was like premium economy, which has like slightly extra legroom and is just cut off by a curtain, but you can still see it. Like it's not a separate compartment. Keir Starmer wasn't in that. He was in economy class with his family, who he was on holiday with, paid for privately, apparently. So say the air hostess. I mean, I guess they're just guessing as much as I am. And he had 9 security detail with him, all around him, paid for by the taxpayer. I don't know why I'm specifying this, but I just found the whole thing fascinating. Like, so obviously he pays for his own holiday, which means he's booked economy, or maybe he's trying to make a statement there. And then he's got a security detail, but he surely can't pay for them. So I'm guessing that they're paid for by the taxpayer. And the whole thing just fascinates me that, like, you would never see Donald Trump in that situation. He would always have Air Force One. Would you even see the French president or the German chancellor in that position? Like, isn't that so British that our leader is obliged to fly economy class? And I'm not judging it either way. Like, I actually really love the idea that our prime minister is flying economy class. At the same time, it's so British that he 2 weeks ago was in the Oval Office with Donald Trump and Zelensky, like trying to solve world affairs. And then he has to fly back from Venice on the same flight as me. Oh, it's so fucking ridiculous. So that was my Venice experience. I would also like to quickly just mention the Is This Thing On ? Trailer. Is This Thing On is a new trailer that came out last week. It's an American comedy drama directed by Bradley Cooper from a screenplay co-written with Will Arnett. It's starring Will Arnett, and it's about... it's starring Will Arnett as a stand-up comedian, and it seems to be just about the craft of stand-up comedy. It's getting released at the New York Film Festival. You know, you can imagine the vibes on this. And it's apparently based on the life of John Bishop, which is strange. John Bishop, the comedian from... where is he from? Is he from Manchester? Well, I've completely forgotten John Bishop's accent. Anyway, what's interesting to me about this is Bradley Cooper's first two this is his third directed movie. The first two directed movies are Star is Born, Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga, and Maestro, Bradley Cooper playing Leonard Bernstein. And so this is the third movie of three where Bradley Cooper is directing something about some level of performance. And I spoke with George of Pulp Kitchen about this, who lent me the bow tie for Venice Film Festival. And he made an observation, which was he thinks that it's Bradley Cooper like over-valorizing the art of performance and the culture of creative entertainment. And I can understand where he's coming from with that, because Bradley Cooper is a very like introspective artist. Like he really, we know all the way going back to when he was captured asking a question on Inside the Actor's Studio as a student. He's always been a very kind of thinker actor, right? He puts a lot of stock in the craft of filmmaking, and I think as an extension of that, he puts a lot of stock in the craft of entertainment in general. And I respect that. Like, I think that arts does need to be respected, but at the same time, I wonder if the reason why Bradley Cooper's films, especially Maestro, are coming across as slightly too lofty, because he's maybe slightly too chin-strokey and navel-gazing about that aspect. But anyway, this was quite an entertaining trailer because stand-up comedy is something I'm extremely interested in. It's something that I've tried myself with varying degrees of success, something that I've been interested in since I was a kid. And I think it's something that's probably underrepresented on screen. I think if I was to try and imagine the other recent representations, it would be Joaquin Phoenix in Joker, which is obviously a very stylized representation of stand-up comedy. And then also Adam Sandler et al. In the Judd Apatow movie Funny People, which I think was a pretty, I don't know why respectful is not the right word, but a pretty like realistic or at least grounded depiction of stand-up comedy. But this Thing On seems to be a step beyond that, and it seems to be a character drama, character study of a stand-up comedian. So that's something I'm extremely interested in. So go watch that trailer if you fancy having a look. Another small bit of news, Warwick Davis has been cast as Professor Flitwick again in the new Harry Potter TV series that's being produced for HBO. I've been debating whether to discuss the new Harry Potter series. I have discussed it in the past on the podcast, but whether to discuss it more or less, depending on my own personal views on J.K. Rowling's views on sex in the trans community, gender in the trans community. I'm going to take the stand, just for your information, I'm going to take the stand of like, I'm interested in this as a project, and I'm hoping to separate that from J.K. Rowling as much as I can as we move forward. There's going to be news coming out about this for the next year or two, and I don't want to turn my back on it, because I have to admit that I am interested in it as a piece of as a project for television. Again, trying to separate that from the eventual beneficiary of this, which is J.K. Rowling. So anyway, Warwick Davis has been cast as Professor Flitwick, and I found that interesting because I was talking with my mate about this. That could be one of the very, very few roles that you could reasonably recast as the same actor from the original series. Reason being is because, this was my friend's point, and made a very good point. Professor Flitwick didn't have any big moments in the original movies, but it was a performance that everyone kind of liked. You know, it was well cast. And so I thought, yeah, that seems like a reasonable person to recast and then hopefully expand. And I can't quite remember the moments Flitwick gets in the books, but I imagine there's definitely more than there was in the film. So that might be nice for him to explore the role. Whereas Any other role that I thought about, I was like, oh, well, they did have that moment, and you probably wouldn't want them to have that moment again. So I was wondering, like, oh, could Emma Thompson be Professor Trelawney again? Then I was like, because she kind of had that big moment with the, and they will be reunited once more, that moment. And we don't want to see her do that again, right? And then there are other actors that like have just simply aged out of the roles, like all the Weasleys, obviously, and all the pretty much all the teachers. There are some teachers that have passed away, like Maggie Smith and Robbie Coltrane, obviously. The only other actor character that I thought could be reprised, obviously apart from CGI, like, you could argue Toby Jones could come back as Dobby and blah blah, but I'd like some reimagining of those characters. The only other one I thought of that could be reprised was probably Miriam Margolyes as Professor Sprout, because I feel like she actually didn't have any huge moments in the original series. She was well loved. She's a well loved actor, and she was mainly comedic relief. And I feel like she could just come back, and it would almost be like just a welcome cameo again. Again, I can't remember if Sprout has more moments in the main series. In the main books. Final point that I'd like to mention is there's a really interesting list that's come out, which is the 101 best movie performances of the 21st century. And this came out under the banner of The Ringer, which is the podcast house that produced The Rewatchables and The Big Picture, which is released, they're like a Spotify affiliated company, or The Ringer. And I love a lot of their podcasts, and I think that I recommend that you Google this list. So it's The Ringer top performances of the 21st century, the 101 top performances of the 21st century. What I think is interesting about this list is they've been really, really liberal with including non-traditional choices in the list. By traditional, I would mean like the Oscar bait choices, like, there are some incredible performances that have won Oscars. So Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood, you would expect that to be in there, blah, blah, blah. But I really think it's great that they've included some non-traditional choices, and I've picked out a few of them. So, for example, number 97, Regina George in Mean Girls. Why am I blanking on her name? Oh my God, played by Rachel McAdams. Or number 76, Michael Fassbender in Shame. Obviously, that's a dramatic role, but it's an underseen movie, I think. Number 73, Jack Black as Dewey Finn in School of Rock. I think one of the most quintessential performances of any role ever, actually, is Jack Black in School of Rock. And one of the stipulations they did for this list was every actor can only be featured once in the list. So, like, Jack Black in School of Rock is the one Jack Black entry. Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood is the one Daniel Day-Lewis entry. Number 5, for example, Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men is the one Javier Bardem entry, but you could argue he could be entered maybe even for Skyfall as well, or Heath Ledger as Joker at number 6, Joaquin Phoenix in The Master at number 9. Joaquin Phoenix has probably got 5 roles that could be in there, but there's only one that goes in. And I really like this concept. Some people were kind of bitching and moaning about the fact that there's only one per actor. I personally really like it, because something that I've had with my mum ever since I was a kid was we always used to discuss. My mum was and my dad, but my mum was a big source of my movie interest. She's not like encyclopedic on movies at all, but she really encouraged and was supportive and enthusiastic about my movie interests. And I remember I saw There Will Be Blood with her for the first time in 2007, and it was a really like memorable trip. Anyway, one of the things that we always used to talk about was we'd call it nailed it roles, as in like every actor has one role in their career that they absolutely nailed, and you cannot imagine any other actor doing that role. And further to that point, that role is the role they were born to do. So like, and I think that there are some actors that you can do that for. So I would say Ethan Hawke in the Before trilogy is like a nailed it role, because he is a brilliant actor who's had a lot of brilliant performances, but he was born to play Jesse in the Before trilogy. It's just everything about his intellectualism, his literate nature, and his thinking man's nature. Equally, Jack Black in School of Rock, that might be the best example of a nailed it role that I could ever think of. Nobody else could have done that role. Not only obviously the musical talent and the vocal talent, that's by the by. That's already enough. But the comedic talent to be so goofy and so flamboyant and not be annoying is the key to that role. And that I will say this into my grave, that is the hardest thing anyone can do on screen, in my opinion, is an extremely goofy and flamboyant comedic role and not be annoying, which is why I think the performances of Jim Carrey in his early years are exceptional. Because, some people do find Jim Carrey annoying, don't get me wrong, and I'm sure some people do find Jack Black annoying in School of Rock. But let's be clear, the general consensus is that Jim Carrey is absolutely hilarious. And yet when you watch it, you're like, he's flapping around, throwing himself around, doing stupid voices and stupid faces. And can you imagine anyone doing that role? Anyone else doing these roles? And you just be like, shut the fuck up, bro. I'm fucking sick of you, mate. And Jack Black in School of Rock is just such a great example of that. Number 71, Tom Hanks in Castaway. I do wonder if that's the right role for Tom, but the more I thought about it, I did think, he carries that movie in a way that I don't think anyone else could have carried that movie in. I think it was the year 2000 or maybe 2001. He was just cooking so much at that point. He could carry entire movies on his back, and there's no better representation of that than Castaway, because no one says a fucking word apart from the first 20 minutes and the last 20 minutes. That is an incredible performance. Speaking of which, Russell Crowe in Gladiator, number 50, another example of a nailed it role, because I don't think Russell Crowe even understands why he's so perfect in that film, and he hasn't quite got there in other films. He is great in The Insider with Al Pacino. He is, I hate the movie A Beautiful Mind, but he is decent in A Beautiful Mind. He's also decent in other movies. He's been pretty terrible recently, but he's never quite hit the heights of his role in Gladiator. And I know in my head why that is, and I'm not sure if I can articulate it, but it's basically, for me, the balance between the hero and the villain of that character. Not the villain, but the heroism and the multitudes of that character, the kind of darkness of that character. I think we've learned in recent times that Tom Cruise has a real dark, brooding streak where he's not pandering to you. He's not a people pleaser type of performer. He actually actively doesn't want to be that, clearly, with his recent work. And I think what's perfect about that Maximus role for Russell Crowe is that, yes, Maximus is the hero. Yes, you're supposed to love him, but he also is. He's got light and shade. He's not perfect. He's a textured character. He's not just like, hey, I'm the hero and I'm going to kill all the bad guys and I'm going to win. He's at times selfish. He's at times quiet, reserved, detached. He says, are you not entertained? He's not, the character itself literally doesn't want to entertain you. And he does it in a way that is somehow lovable and captivating at the same time. That's probably a real good rundown of that list. But just to say, 101 best acting performances since the 21st century at theringer.com. So that is me. I will call it. That is this episode of Fred Asquith on Film, at Fred Asquith on Film on TikTok and Instagram, where you can see the red carpet photos from Instagram. And I will also be posting on my personal profile some videos of the whole Venice experience, which you can go see. Thank you again. It's really nice to see the numbers be going up on this podcast and more people mentioning it to me. So thank you again. I'm absolutely loving doing this. And it's difficult to know what I'll be coming back to talk about next, because news is slow. We're at the end of summer. and also releases are slow. But we have our eyes set on One Battle After Another, the PTA movie coming out on the 26th of September. I'm really hoping to get to a preview screening of that so that I can get a review to you upon time of release. So anyway, between now and then, I'll keep pumping out the episodes, keep finding some news and rewatches to talk about. Thanks for being here. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.